You're welcome back to Morning Express. For the final leg of conversations here on the program this morning, we're being joined virtually by Mr. Solomon Iorpev, who is the technical advisor on media, publicity, and strategic communication, Benue State Governor Hyacinth Ali. A very good morning to you, Mr. Solomon. Thank you so much for finding the time to join us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning.
Good morning to you too. Well, first things first, I believe you are in Benue State at the moment. We just want to know how the situation is like there in Benue State concerning security. We have been hearing quite some news in the last couple of weeks or even months, but how has that been like now? Is the situation stabilized?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. To a very large extent, the situation has calmed down. The situation has stabilized, as you mentioned. It was quite a terrible one, especially considering the water situation that happened where hundreds of people were killed. After that, the president visited our state, gave directives to the security heads here, the heads of security here in Benue State, and of course, even at the national level. And there were doors that were open of communication between Benue and the national level where information flow became a lot easier for us. And then more and more forces were deployed to the state in the different areas
Yeah.
that were prone to attacks, where you call those spot areas where attacks were coming from major. Efforts have been made consistently by the state government over time, and then the collaboration between the state and the federal government paid off a little more, much more than what we were experiencing before. So there's some relative peace in the state. You haven't heard of any attacks in recent times, and so that's because of the efforts that have been made here. Recently, the police in Benue State upgraded the divisions and added two more divisions in the state to make sure that we cover most of these areas that are vulnerable. Apart from that, the state government has put in place what we call the quick response team, made up of the vigilantes and some of those other local security groups to make sure that they reach the hinterlands and wherever the problems were, if they could get information across to the regular um, security forces, then of course actions will be taken quicker and faster. They're supposed to be the first responders to what's happening. You have also heard about Operation Anyanyo, which is a joint operation of the military, the police, the civil defense, and all the other forces, the DSS, and all of that put together. That has been put together by His Excellency to make sure that no stone is left unturned, especially as far as security is concerned in the state. He distributed about 100 trucks to them, Hilux trucks to them. He gave them 100 motorcycles, 600 motorcycles to make sure they reach everywhere that they needed to reach. And there is a lot of community involvement and community engagement where all the leaders, the traditional leaders, all the youth leaders, every women group, and all of that are being engaged at that level so that when you see something, you say something. And also to avoid this internal betrayals that happen here and there as a result of clashes between communities in the state that will put them at risk of being exposed to external attacks.
Now, Mr. Solomon,
This
in a moment we'll come to what the people are doing concerning their own contributions to ensuring uh, a security, insecurity-free Benue. And you have even highlighted some of the tactical means that the state government is taking in order to tackle insecurity and improve governance in the state. But when it comes to traditional institutions, cultural leaders, and all of that, have there been any sort of measures taken by these institutions in order to resolve the conflict in communities within Benue State, in addition to what the state government is already putting in place?
Yes, there has been a lot of improvement in the what you call intrastate crisis, intercommunity, mostly because of land. Because of clashes over who owns which land, where does your land end, where does mine begin, and all of that. Those internal wranglings. There has been one consistently between um, Gwe West local government and of course Constitutional local government. You've had areas where you had the Constitutional and Obi local governments. You've had other areas in the zone area, Sankra Axis and all of them. There have been a lot of community involvement. The heads of this peace talks is usually the deputy governor of Benue State. And he has had series of meetings and engaged people within communities, stakeholders within those communities. So you have traditional rulers, beginning from we have three classes of traditional rulers. You have the Utu, you have the Uti, you have the Utubayoru, and all of that. All of these people are brought together on a round table for discussions. And to a very large extent, everybody has stood up to take responsibility for what is happening in their own communities. And such crises have been laid to the back, as far as I'm concerned, within this period of time. And we've had a lot of peace within the area. There are little skirmishes here and there, but of course, these are also being worked on. And I believe very strongly that, as I said, in the shortest possible time, we're going to have a peaceful Benue State.
Now, Mr. Solomon, we all know that prior to the advent of security challenges like banditry and kidnapping that have trickled down from other neighboring states into Benue, the major bone of contention when it comes to security in Benue State has always been the farmer-herder clashes, which has affected Benue State the most, extending to Taraba or even Adamawa State. However, there is a new dispensation, there is a new dynamic when it comes to the security situation. We might digress a little bit, but when it comes to, community policing, how has the state government and how have the people of Benue State been able to address this new normal or this new dynamic of security away from what has been the farmer-herder clashes all this while?
Well, my governor, like any other well-meaning governor in Nigeria, has advocated very strongly for community policing, if that's what you're talking about.
Exactly.
The point has always been, and even when the president came to Benue State, he mentioned it again to him. He said, we don't have an alternative to community policing. The reason being that the members of the community know themselves, they know strangers who come into the land, they can tell when someone means well or doesn't mean well, because these are people who live among themselves and know themselves, even by first names. And so when people among themselves begin to police themselves, it's a lot easier to handle issues of insecurity. Because when the strangers come into the area, it's easier for them to identify that someone who comes all the way from Kano to come and be a part of a community where he doesn't know anyone within the area and that he doesn't know whoever is a stranger who has been there or is going to take him time before he learns of those who are really members of that community. So my governor has advocated for that very strongly, and that's where he stands as a person, and that's where we stand as a state. The issue is there's very little we can do. There's very minimal we can do as a people when we want to police ourselves without the stamp of the federal government and community policing. It needs to give a stamp. The federal government needs to step up. The legislation needs to be made for us to have a clear go-ahead to establish state-owned apparatus of security. Because the difficulty here is you talk about the governor being the chief security officer of the state, but he doesn't have control of the security apparatus. The last command doesn't come from him. He is not the one that issues the final command to the CP, for instance. He's not the one that issues the last command to whoever is in charge of security and is said to be answerable to him in the state. If he directs that something be done and the person is called from Abuja or wherever and told not to proceed, it's becoming difficult. It's going to be difficult for him to accomplish what he wants to accomplish. But when the security apparatus is within the control of the state and the people are from that community, they know themselves, they know the area, they know the terrain, they know the territory, they know where to go to if anything happens. And so it becomes a lot easier for them. So there's very little what we have on ground now can do, which is what we call these vigilante groups. And local in Benue State here, we have what is called Benue State Civil Protection Guards. There's very little we can do. When the federal government gives the go-ahead, then of course we can get the right weapons that we should get that is allowed, And then these people are deployed to the places where they should go to take care of their own territories and areas. And you can discover that there'll be a lot of this happens in all parts of the world. If you go anywhere in the world, you have community policing. You can't do away with that. You can't do without that.
Now,
It's not possible.
while we speak of community policing, I like that you had raised some points concerning, the limitations that be when it comes to how much power the governor has over security forces in the state, even as the chief security officer of the state. But coming down to the people and coming down to proper, community service and proper looking out for each other. Some couple of months ago, following the attacks in Benue State, we saw some groups of women, storming the streets to protest. And some of the things that they were chanting was that the soldiers stationed there to restore peace and order in the state should leave their land. This was quite clear in the videos that we saw in the reportage that was gotten from Benue State. Why do you think this is so? And is it safe to say that the people are slowly losing trust and faith in the armed forces or security forces when it comes to restoring peace and order in Benue State?
Well, thank you very much. But I must commend the federal government on their interventions in what is happening in Benue State. Um, there could be accusations and counter accusations. We cannot have 100 angels
Yeah.
working in one place and there will not be a devil among them. And so, if there are complaints about one or two of such people who are not living up to expectation, it's quite understandable. And when something happens within that area, it's easy for you to blame such bad eggs. And then it's easy also for you to generalize and say that every other person is involved in that. But I must also caution that we must be careful when we begin to throw such blanket accusations over security operatives who have been having sleepless nights trying to protect us the much they can. And so I won't go into saying that these people are their call may not be out of place, but I would rather ask that investigations be done thoroughly for us to know where such calls are coming from, which I believe already. My state governor also heard this and is into checking into that. Where the bad eggs are found, of course, they must be checked. But we can't do without these people at the moment. We can't send them out at the moment because we need them. Is their presence, is their activities that have brought the level of peace we experience in Benue State at the moment.
Well, let's move on to the policy of government when it comes to, the progress and development of Benue State. Now, Benue is considered the food basket of the nation. Benue has quite a lot of things that, other states in Nigeria should ordinarily envy. But in your opinion, as someone who is close to the governor and someone who works for the government, in all honesty, while the policies of Governor Hyacinth Alia are wonderful and are moving the state forward, are there any gaps, any loopholes that you think government policies are not really addressing at the moment in order to move the state forward?
Well, thank you very much for that. I am proud of the governor I serve. I'm proud of the man who has volunteered to steer the affairs of the state and move Benue to the next point. There has been a great deficit of development, deficit of infrastructure, deficit of everything, health, economic development, and everything you can talk. So he has come with a mindset to change all of that narrative. And that's the reason why the policies and programs he put on the table were all aimed at making sure that Benue moves forward. And the man is being deliberate about his governance. That's the thing about him that is very, 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 very appealing to everyone around him. He's deliberate, he's calculating, he's intentional about what he does. And so if you come to Benue, for instance, now, you will see that the state has practically become a construction site. Because when you came to Benue sometime before now, maybe about 2.5 years ago, Benue was more like a glorified village. Where you have the state capital where roads were not made, where the roads were not tarred. You came into the state and it was looking like you're in one village somewhere in another state. And you saw your neighboring states that were created out of Benue doing so well, like Nasarawa and the neighboring states, and you wondered what was going on. But he came with the intention of changing all of that narrative. And that is exactly what he's doing at the moment. And so within 2 years of his working, you cannot say there are gaps yet because it's just been 2 years and a few months. And so what the man has done within this period is what other governors before him were not able to do in 4 years or 8 years of their reign in office. And so it's too early for me to call and say there are gaps here and there. Of course, there must be gaps. There are shortcomings here and there because, of course, anything where you have humanity involved, we're not computers. We're not built by as angels. Where there are mistakes, there are faults here and there. There are interventions that sometimes don't go all the way as you planned it. And so, of course, this could create some gaps here and there. But the man is working 247 to ensure Benue takes his place of pride. Now, when you talk about some things in Benue State being that should be envied by other states, agriculture, for instance, is our pride.
Yeah.
And the man has said time and again that our glory, our wealth, our inheritance is in the ground. And everybody must get back there to their farms. And that's the reason why even in terms of security, he's been doing everything possible for peace to return. And some of those places that were unapproachable before by farmers are returning to their farms now to till the grounds. And that's a very huge development. He's trying to also make sure that we move from the local way of farming to a mechanized form of farming. And he also makes sure, because of time, I'm just summarizing all of this. He also makes sure that we have fertilizers as and when due for the farmers to be able to go to their farms and to be able to harvest what they should when the time
Mr.
comes.
Solomon, while the governor is doing all of this wonderful works, putting policies in place, the question is about implementation and also collaboration when it comes to acting out on these policies. How has the reception been like? First, from the people of Benue State. Secondly, individuals who are around the governor, who are supposed to be the policy implementers of some of these, orders and policies by the governor. How has that been like for Benue State? Has there been a lot of cooperation and collaboration on the part of the governor and his members of his team, much like yourself?
Of course, I can say this without mincing words, that there has been so much collaboration in areas where His Excellency had noticed that people were not forthcoming. They were not giving in their best to make sure they implement the policies that were on ground.
Yeah.
You heard there has been a cabinet reshuffle in recent times. Some people have been replaced. Portfolios have not been announced yet, but some old people that were part of the government are back. Those are people that were giving him everything he wanted to get as implementers of these policies. They are back on board. Some who did not give him what he wanted to, he is replacing them with the new ones that are coming. That shows you the intentionality of the government to make sure that every policy that affects the people positively is implemented to the latter. And so that's what is going on now in Benue State. There's also been a collaboration between Benue and Lagos in terms of agriculture recently. I don't know if you heard about that.
I haven't, but you could take us through that, please.
Yes, so now there is this agreement between Benue and Lagos that every farm produce that is put together by Benue, Lagos is ready to buy. So we have already sought a willing market. There's a ready market. It's for us to fill that market now. So that puts everyone on their toes. If a farmer gets to hear that there's a deficit of 3,000 bags of soya beans, for instance, he's willing to fill in there because he knows that once it's produced, there is a market for it. He doesn't have to wait. And then he doesn't have to suffer the middleman. The problem of the middleman where you have to take through the middleman and then you lose a lot of money in between. There's already a market to give you the price you're looking for.
Is this a government-to-government agreement where produce from Benue State will be collected by the Benue State government and then transported to Lagos and handed over to the Lagos State government, and the two state governments basically serve as the middlemen in this situation between
they're synergizing. Yeah, they're synergizing to make sure that first of all the farmer gets the best out of what he should get. That's number one. And number two, there is no deficit of what do you call it, of supply of the produce they're talking about.
Yeah.
So you know there's a market for 50,000 bags of rice. So you know you are working to fill in that market of 50,000 bags of rice. I don't know if you understand. So
I get you.
there's a ready market for you by the time you get to the farms to farm. So before you even get to the farm, there's a market that's waiting. There's something His Excellency has done in terms of agriculture. I really need you to understand.
Okay.
He has given out information, and everybody is cooperating into this for people to form cooperatives of not less than 10 people and get hectares of land not less than 5. When you gather these hectares of land, you present it to the Minister of Agriculture, and this is handed over to the government. The government takes over that piece of land and farms what those people want to farm. You want to farm soya beans, you want to farm cassava, you want to farm beans, you want to farm whatever it is you want to farm. The government tills the ground for you free of charge, gives you the seedlings free of charge, gives you fertilizer free of charge, give you the herbicide free of charge. All you require to do as a group of people is to look after those farmlands. At the end of the day, at your harvest, you sell back to the government at the price you intend to sell. The government is not fixing a price for you. You sell at the market price to the government without any middleman.
Now, what
So
is the,
these are
what
the
is the
things that are
benefit
taken
of the
off the
government?
people and sent to the Lagos State
Now,
government.
while this offer seems very juicy and quite tempting, what is there to gain for the state government? I mean, giving off lands up to 5 hectares, or at least 5 hectares of land to groups of about 10 farmers, and at the end of the farming season, the farmers sell back to the state government at a rate that they decide, not a rate that the state government decides. So what is it?
Now,
What is in it
the
for the
government
state
is
government
not
itself?
the government is not the one giving the land. You didn't hear that part of it. If you come together, you're the one to produce the land you want to use.
Okay.
I hope you got that correct.
Okay.
So we're a group of people within a community.
Yeah.
So we came together and said, okay, we have I number one have these sectors of land here, you have these sectors of land here, you have let's come together and collaborate and present this piece of land to the government to till for us. What the government is doing is providing for you the farming implements, giving you the fertilizer, giving you the herbicides, giving you the seedlings. Now, the government is trying to encourage people. Remember that at some point, farmers got discouraged from farming because they were not having access to seedlings, they were not having access to fertilizer, they were not having access to implements. So they got discouraged. Now the state government is trying to, as much as possible, encourage these people to get back to the farms. By the time you do that 1 or 2 seasons, these people have stood on their feet because the money they are getting, they are putting back into the cooperatives. That becomes their source, their base. That becomes their capital to continue farming even after the state government has backed out of this program. So he is encouraging them to get back into the farms. That's exactly what he's doing.
Now let's talk about the local government level, which is often considered the grassroots level when it comes to governance and when it comes to enjoying the dividends of democracy. At a time when both financial and administrative autonomy has been granted to local government areas, all 774 of them across the country by the Supreme Court, yet we continue to see certain states that are not really allowing their local government council chairmen to give the dividends of democracy to the people. What is it looking like in Benue State? Is the governor all for local government autonomy? If yes, how have these local government chairmen been also, how have they been helping in order to deliver the dividends of democracy to the people?
This is a question I would rather have done a video or maybe a documentary to present to you of the improvements that have come to the local governments as a result of the autonomy. I remember that this was the key passion for the governor before he even came on board,
Yeah.
giving the local governments the autonomy. And so when the federal government stepped into that and declared that this is what is happening and this is what has been said, this is what is done, the autonomy back to local governments, we're more than excited in Benue State because we're already on that path before we even, the federal government got the judgment for that. Now, but what is happening is the individuals in those local governments and their willingness to participate in improving their local governments. And that's the reason why His Excellency has put every monitoring in place. For instance, You have what you call the local government liaison officers that have been put in place to liaise between the state governor and the local governments to make sure that they are doing exactly what they should do.
Yeah.
And recently, His Excellency appointed a PSA on local government monitoring to make sure that this man is in charge of implementations of programs in local governments and to make sure that every local government chairman does what they're supposed to do. Now, if this is not helping, what else can help? This is the way the governor is checking to make sure that local governments really give to their people what they should, because they are the last hope before the people. They are the last point of contact to the people. So they must be able to do what they are required to do. And the governor is not resting on his horse, is monitoring them to ensure all the monies are released to them as a when due. They are supposed to be doing their projects. And when you do those projects, that's the reason why we have the PSA on local government monitoring. So that he is able to check the project that you brought forward to the state and this and this and this that you're going to do, have you done them? And if you have not done them, your people are encouraged to call you to order. Recently, he made an appearance in Constitution Local Government, and he told them publicly, hold your chairman accountable on what's happening in your local government.
Yeah.
And the chairman were there. So the point is, let them be able to do that which they say they are beginning. Money is being released to them. The state government is not touching their funds. It's for them, and they're supposed to do their implementation at that level.
Now, in your opinion, are there certain local government chairmen, you might not want to call names now, but are there certain local government chairmen that are doing aligning with the agenda of the governor, Reverend Hyacinth Alia, in moving the state forward, and are there others who are a little bit lackluster in terms of executing some of these policies?
Well, yeah, as I told you at the very beginning, there must be some black sheep here and there.
Yeah.
If you listen well, recently I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, the full local government chairman was suspended because of this non-implementation and the way he was going about leadership,
yeah,
which was uncalled for, which was not in line with the state government policies. And the state assembly had to call him to order, and they suspended him from office as a result of that. That's to tell you that we're checking out those who are not doing well in their areas. And most of the people are paying attention because they know that the governor who is on seat is a no-nonsense governor. He's one who wants things to be done and done properly. And so that's where we are at the moment.
Well, let's move back to the issue of security and internally displaced persons. Talking about IDPs in Benue that have been affected with all of these situations. Are there specific steps being taken by the government in order to restore them back to their normal livelihoods and away from these IDP camps? Because there have been some speculations that the IDP camps in some certain parts of the country are being kept because there are some people benefiting off the fact that these IDP camps exist.
Well, if there are camps like that in Nigeria, it's very unfortunate. And I can assure you with every sense of responsibility that Benue is not one of such places.
So there are no IDP camps in Benue State?
No, there are IDP camps in Benue State.
Okay.
But when you say there are IDP camps being kept because some people are benefiting from such, that's what I'm trying to deny.
Okay.
That's not part of what Benue State is now. This is a passion for His Excellency the Governor. Let me tell you, the Benue State Durable Solutions that was launched in February this year was to ensure the 3 steps. It has the three steps to it. You have security, you have social amenities, and then you have the return of those people to their ancestral homes. This is the partnership with the IOM. And now that was done and is being followed carefully. So the first step is being worked on to ensure that the security is taken care of in those areas where they were displaced. So they don't have to go back and forth. You don't return back home today and then you start running back again after a few days. So the primary cause, the root causes of these insecurities are taken care of, first of all. Now that's what is being worked. That's the first step. And it's being worked on as we speak. Immediately, there is a 5-year plan. Immediately after that, what you have is restoration of social amenities. Schools have to be built. Markets have to be returned. Hospitals have to be built. Lots of these things have to be done. So that when these people return home, they are not stranded as to where to go to hospital, where the children are going to school, and all of that, where police stations are to help them with their securities and all of that. That's the second step. And then the third step is making sure that durable housing is provided for them in their areas, in their ancestral homes, for them to return. Because some of them would not even have anywhere to go back to. Even if they went back home,
Yeah.
there won't be housing for them. So that has to be taken care of. And if you heard the news properly, about 3 weeks ago, the IOM was in Benue State, making provision of 1.7 billion to ensure that the IDPs return to their homes. And in order to show the level of seriousness, the Benue State commitment, the Benue State Governor did something that has not been done by any state governor, or I stand to be corrected. I haven't heard of it before. They gave the IOM a check of $50,000 to add to what they have so that they can make this implementation faster. I think that's very commendable. That has not been done anywhere.
$50,000 from the state government.
Yes, to the IOM.
Okay.
To make sure that they add to what they have, the 1.7 billion they talked about. It may not be so much, but that's to show you our commitment, our zeal, to make sure that this thing happens as soon as possible. So that tells you that the government is passionate about returning the IDPs to their ancestral homes.
Well, in interesting take here. I understand that you've been trying to relay, the plans that the state government has in terms of ensuring a return to their ancestral homes, a return of these IDPs to their ancestral homes. And I think one of the things that you had mentioned while you were speaking is the fact that homes need to be built. Some level of infrastructure that used to exist in these communities need to be replaced. But most importantly, it has to do with ensuring that there is a level of government presence when it comes to security in these areas or in these communities. Mm-hmm. How has that been coming along, particularly in terms of security? Because it's one thing to rebuild and send these IDPs back. It's another thing to ensure that the problem that sent them out in the first place does not repeat itself.
Exactly. That's what I said from the very beginning, that the security, the way the governor is handling security in the state is to ensure that the IDPs don't go to and fro. You go back home today and then you're returning again tomorrow because the root causes of insecurity were not handled. All right. So that's the reason why I told you about the security efforts at the beginning that the state government is making. I told you about the collaborations and the interactions between stakeholders and the state government.
Yeah.
I told you about what is happening with the distribution of securities around the state and even the divisions of additional divisions of police stations. 2 extra divisions were added by the police, upgraded to make sure that they came to divisional stations in the state. When you have a divisional police station, you have it's upgraded, it's higher, so all the substations around them are multiplying, so that you have more security presence around the communities. Now, all of this is to make sure that security gets as close as possible to the people, and in those areas of these vulnerable areas especially. That is where the concentration is. And so the efforts to make sure that these things don't repeat, these are the efforts the governor is making. So with the collaboration with the federal government and deployment of more forces to the state and the engagement of community policing of the vigilantes and the Benue State Civil Protection Guards and all of that, we're going to make sure by the mercies of God that these things don't happen. So, but when you do that, you also need to monitor the effectiveness, the efficacy of what you're doing. So if we deploy people to those areas, we need to monitor and see that in the next 3, 4, 5 months, nothing has happened. The deployments have been effective. Okay, at 6, 7, 8 months, nothing has happened. Peace is returning more, and those attacks are no longer happening. Then you can comfortably return those people back to their places.
Carry on, Mr. Solomon.
So, but if just by deploying people to those areas, forces to those areas, and then it's okay because there are divisions that have been upgraded, because we have this and this, okay, go back home. So what if another wave of attack comes after that is stronger than what you were even experiencing? Because remember, all we'll be talking about is some of these attacks are happening outside of our territory. People come from outside the territory.
Outside of your territory, what does that mean? Is it an infiltration? Okay,
time and again.
Yeah.
You have infiltrations of people into our state. All right. Now you will imagine that Benue is in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
We are not a border security. We are not a border state, a borderline security state.
Yeah.
So how is it that people come to attack Benue communities and then retract? And the neighboring states don't seem to know, especially the national axis and the Tarabana axis. They don't seem to know where these people are coming from. And the people are applying what you call the guerrilla attack style. So who is inhabiting these people? Who is providing shelter for them? Who is providing a cover for them? If we are the borders, we say these people are coming from across the borders to attack us.
The states that you have mentioned have in recent times had their own fair share of security challenges, maybe not as intense or as severe as Benue State has had it in the last few months, but we have also seen, pockets of attacks in places like Taraba State, pockets of attacks in places like Nasarawa State, and you might also want to place Benue and Plateau State at par, almost at par when it comes to some of these attacks. So in as much as your assertion is that the attacks are coming in from other states or elements from other states, these same states also grapple with the same security challenges.
Now, let me tell you this and tell you this very clearly, on a very sound note. Is Plateau State, for instance, a borderline state? It is not.
Certainly not.
These are questions we must keep asking ourselves. If we keep hiding from these realities, we keep talking about the same thing for years. Has there been a collaboration between the states and Benue and Plateau to say, okay, as governors, let's come together and push out these things? No, I haven't seen any collaborations. If, for instance, how far does an attacker have to go after attacking a state and then you can't find them? How far?
Well, that's
you attack a community within 2 hours, and then there's a search for you, and no arrests have been made anywhere around the country. Have you heard of any arrests of the perpetrators of this evil acts? You haven't heard. That's the worry we're having. That's the challenge we're having. And until Nigeria arises as a country to say, let's face what is happening, let's face this attacks. It's not just on Benue.
Yeah.
Benue may be having heated attacks. Taraba may be having, Plateau may be having heated attacks. But I am telling you this is not a state matter, it's a national issue. The cries are all over the country. Everyone is crying across the country. Go to the east, people are crying of attacks. And they're calling the same set of people over and over. We are being attacked by the Fulanis. We are being attacked by the herders. The federal government needs to rise up to do. This is not something you leave to a state.
But this
what I am saying is, when you have neighboring states, when you have neighboring states surrounding an area where attacks are happening consistently, the federal government needs to step up and put the states together and check the borders of those states. That goes beyond, even if we have community policing, can the vigilantes, for instance, in my area, go to Nasarawa State to check what is happening? They don't have the authority, they don't have the powers, they can't investigate that. The police need to do that. The military needs to do that. And so when the president came to Benue State and gave the directive, he even asked a question in public. I don't know if you listened. But he said, has any arrest been made?
Yeah.
And he blamed the security forces. I said, how can you tell me nobody has been arrested over all of this that have been happening over these years? What kind of security apparatus are you?
Now, Mr. Solomon, you mentioned that each time these attacks take place, whether in Benue State or in Plateau State or even far down in the southeast, there is always a certain name that pops up. Herders were the ones who attacked us. Fulani herders were the ones who attacked us, or they drove their cattle into our farms and, ate our crops. And when we wanted, to counter them, there was an escalation and it led to casualties.
Exactly.
Now, my point is, what is the place of the Mieti Allah Cattle Breeders Association, which is supposed to be the body responsible for all herders in Nigeria? I know there have been talks with them, both from the federal government and some certain state governments who have had these pockets of attacks from herders in the past. But holistically now, how can we address this while also holding the Mieti Allah Cattle Breeders Association to account?
My brother, we need to be realistic in Nigeria. We need to be honest. We need to put this on the table if we want a solution around it. I don't know if you recall when there was a security meeting that was held in Benue State about 2 months back, if I'm remembering correctly. The leader of the Mieti Allah in Benue State stood up and said that they are also being under attack. They don't know where this is coming from. And the two rose up and addressed him. He told him in public, he said, what is happening now is we don't know the difference between the mechanics and the madmen anymore. Because both of them are wearing rags. People are crying and calling cattle rearers. Herders are attacking us. And you are saying you don't know. So if these people are not, you push them out. Because if you say they are not part of you, then you should be the one to reveal who they are. The Mieti Allah should come out and say, these people are not part of us. This is where they're coming from. This is who they are. They are strangers. They are not Nigerians. They're not part of us. We don't know them.
And they've not been
because they come here in the name of
for decades. They've not been able to do that all these years that these attacks.
All these years, and they only stand up to defend themselves and say all kinds of things. But if we want to be realistic about this, even the security should have called their attention by now.
Yeah.
Come and explain to us. These people are your kings. If they are not, let us know. Because why is everybody pointing at cattle, herders everywhere? And you are the ones we know that carry heads. So if we are not the ones, why don't you tell us those who are? If the madman is wearing the dirty clothes and the mechanic is wearing the dirty clothes and we can't tell the difference, the mechanic should tell us these are our people and these are the madmen. That's what the chief said. And I stand by him in that.
Quite very strong calls you have made here, Mr. Solomon, but we have just about 5 minutes to wrap up the conversation. I wish we had more time. Let's talk about issues beyond security. What economic policies or projects do you think can help rebuild Benue State at this moment and improve livelihoods? I'm talking about long-term projects. I'm not just talking about releasing fertilizers or agricultural produce and all of that, but sustainable long-term projects that might even outlive the administration of His Excellency Reverend Hyacinth Alia.
I'm very excited you brought that up because the man has a policy and a program. He said that before the end of this administration, in the first 4 years, every moribund industry is going to come back to life. He's reviving all of them one after the other. The Taraku Mills, for instance, is being worked on as I talk to you. The Benue printing has been brought back to life and is actually producing. Is one of the biggest in the Middle Belt right now as I talk to you. The Benue breweries that was lost is being revived now. As I tell you, about 28 or 30 containers of what needs to be installed have been brought. The buildings have been completed already to bring back Benue breweries back to life because we know that our people have a way of taking snacks and drinks every now and then. So we don't want to allow that money to be roaming to other places. Let it stay within here to build our economy. That's what it's doing. As I speak to you right now, there are about 4 other projects that are being worked on to ensure that Benue State comes back to its feet as a producing state, not just a consuming state and a civil service state. The material, cement, for instance, is being worked on as I speak to you. So there are lots of these things happening. The BIPC has done a lot of things. It's the Benue investment arm. Yeah. There are lots of investment that has done and that's happened from the little things that, like the production of sachet water to help regulate the pricing in the state, the production of bread to help regulate the pricing in the state and all of that. Those minor little things, production of nails. Just recently last week, a committee on meeting and coal was set up to make sure that they delve into the realities of those the raw materials in Benue for us to know how to tap into them and bring the best and make the best out of them in the state. So there are lots of these things happening simultaneously as we go. And I can tell you, before the end of these 4 years, you're going to see lots of things pop up that you didn't believe could happen before. Because the man is intentional and deliberate about this.
Following the president's recent visits to Japan and also to Brazil, where a lot of FDIs were being promised, foreign direct investments, collaborations between Nigeria and Brazil when it comes to agriculture. We have seen the governor of Niger State taking very bold and deliberate steps, towards the presidency, requesting for a majority of those funds coming in via FDI in agriculture to be channeled towards Niger State. Now, much like Niger State, Benue State is a large producer of farm produce. Is there anything that the state governor is doing in order to tap into what the president is bringing into the country as a result of this Nigeria-Brazil partnership in agriculture?
If anyone is excited about that trip by Governor is, because these are opportunities that we're looking for time and again. And as I speak with you, there are lots of things happening on the ground that I may not be able to mention to you right now. But when the time comes as a
give us a
spokesman,
hint of that?
and I'm committed, if I gave you a hint, then I'm already telling you what it is. But as a spokesman of the governor, there are things I can release and let go every now and then.
Okay.
But I may not be able to tell you in detail what is happening. But Benue has large, expansive land. We have large, expansive land. And we're willing to accommodate anyone who is willing to invest. Before the trip, there have been lots of investors coming in for lands and all of that in the state. And we have been working with them. All right? And so we're excited about that. And when you mention Niger State, I'm laughing because by the time we're done, Niger State will be like a pond in the midst of a big river, and all of that, because we are the food basket of the nation, and we're not ready to lose that status.
Okay.
We're working on becoming the agricultural hub of Africa.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're working on. So we're taking advantage of every agricultural opportunity that is presented to us in the state. And as I tell you, give me another opportunity in the next 1 or 2 months, and I'll be able to put on the table what the Brazil-Nigeria relations is bringing to the table in Benue State.
Well, let's fingers crossed. Let's look at what the next couple of months will look like. Or will hold, fingers crossed, will hold for the people of Benue State. Mr. Solomon Iorpev, we must thank you so much. It's been wonderful having this conversation with you, and we wish you the very best of the rest of your day, and we wish Benue State healing and recovery and the very best of good governance.
Thank you very much, and good Lord bless you. My governor is out to do well, and I promise you he's going to do better than most of the governors you've seen. God bless you.
Thank you too. God bless you.